Hello and welcome to this edition of the Sports Den. My name is Domenic Papa. Congratulations goes out to the Windsor Clippers, a Junior B lacrosse team. They come back from a 2-0 deficit to defeat the Wallaceburg Red Devils. 3-2. They advance to the next round of the OLA Junior B playoffs to take on the Orangeville Northmen. Good luck to Jerry Kavanaugh and the gang, and of course check out we-tv.ca. We'll see if we can get some telecasts put together for you, but get out and support the Windsor Clippers Junior B lacrosse team. Also, a shout out goes out to the Windsor Stars semi-pro soccer team. They are victorious again last weekend at home. They defeat Durham. They are now a perfect 4-2-0. That's 4 wins, 2 draws, 0 losses so far in 6 games this season. They hit the road for a pair of games this weekend, so good luck to Steve Vanini and the gang there. And the Essex Ravens, what can you say about them? They are on a tremendous roll. Now 6-1. They have a bye week this week. Coach Glenn Mills is out west with Team Ontario, coaching in the Canada Bowl. So everything looking good for the Essex Ravens as they'll go into their final week of play and should have a shot at first place, but definitely will get a home game during the playoffs. And of course, we want to get out and support the Essex Ravens. Of course, a great show as always here on the Sports Den. We're going to talk about a couple of good topics. One topic that is coming up and certainly being talked about a lot is the free agency market in pro sports, and that's what we're going to discuss here this evening on the Sports Den at all different levels of free agency, whether it's the NBA, NHL, NFL, Major League Baseball. It's all very interesting. And the other topic that we want to get into, again, it's popped up, maybe a little bit of a headache for the Ontario Hockey League, for junior hockey in general. There is talk of a union being formed for junior hockey players. We'll see what the panel's thoughts are about that. Of course, if you want to get involved into the show, I have my little iPad going here. We'd love to hear from you. If you have any questions for myself or for the panel, you can contact us on our Twitter at SportsDen Live. We'd love to hear from you, and we'll get your question on air if I get a chance. I think I won't have too much time to talk here tonight with our 3 guests. 3 great individuals, 3 great sports people, 3 great sports minds. Let's get into the introductions. He works hard for the Downtown Windsor Business Association. He's been in the newspaper an awful lot lately, and probably going to be some more news coming with him. Mr. Larry Horowitz is on the show with us. Welcome
Thank
to
you.
the broadcast.
Pleasure to be here.
Finally got you here.
You know, I'm not
You're
such an
busy man.
I'm not the greatest expert in sports, but I know my teams.
Not true. I see you at all kinds of sporting events. I know you follow it religiously, and I know you'll do a good job. Downtown Windsor, this is the busy season. Fair to say that, Larry?
Yeah, we're excited. Balloon and Palooza is back. We saved it.
Great.
We have a lot of new businesses that are opening downtown. We have a retail recruitment program that's phenomenal, and we just signed a new business today, and every day shops are being filled up, and people are starting to return and have faith back in their downtown.
Yeah, so a little bit of a resurgence there, and certainly a good feeling. Do you think it's going to continue to go forward?
Well, it absolutely will. The university, the college are moving thousands of students downtown. The Armory's building, the Windsor Star building, all these buildings are being taken over, and within the next couple of years, you're going to see a new downtown. You're going to see a great place, and I think it'll spread throughout the city, and we're really excited about that.
Okay, well, we appreciate your hard work in that, and thanks for coming into the show here today.
I'd love to be here.
Also on the show, a gentleman I get to talk to a lot throughout the summer months anyways. Don't hear from too much in the winter months, not his time of year. Does a great job with the Walker Homesites baseball organization. He's the president there. He's the man that pushes all the buttons, and he's built a tremendous facility there. He's built a great program. He provides a lot of great baseball for a lot of young players in our area. Mr. Rick Pryor joins us. Welcome to the show, Rick.
Good evening, Dom.
Good to see you again. Yeah, I mean, we talk a lot on the phone. We don't get to see each other a lot face to face. Maybe that's a good thing for you, but just the same, it's great to have you in the studio. And Walker Homesites, another busy summer, right?
Great busy summer. You know, working through some obstacles with some rain here and there, but growing and doing great. Our travel and our house league program really picking it up. So it's great.
Any more plans for Walker Homesites? I mean, you got something going pretty good there with your facility now, Rick. And is there a lot more room for growth there?
We've kind of peaked the growth, but we haven't peaked the caliber. We're gonna try to step it up one more notch and try to get our younger teams even at a higher level through our player development and coaching development too, which is very important.
Got some great coaches there too. Guys I'm familiar with for sure.
Yes.
Rob Ferroni's there.
Rob Ferroni, Jay Evans,
and
got some good ones here, so we're pretty happy.
all right. Well, good stuff. Continued success there. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Also, Larry mentioned the college a little bit earlier on in his intro. A gentleman that works extremely hard at St. Clair College. He got his hand into a lot of good things. He's helping Dr. John Strasser build a great college for our area. It's bringing in people from all over the world now, and he does a lot of that as well. Mr. Ron Segan joins us. He's one of the vice presidents there. Hello, Mr. Segan.
Dominic, thank
I
you.
got you the one day that you were home in the city.
It's been a busy spring, but good to be home and good to, we're about into our second week of opening our sportsplex, and as of today, close to 500 students registered in the fitness facility, which is a big number considering kids are working and away from town, so excited.
The Sportsplex, Ron, I mean, I'll let you answer. I think I have a good idea of what it means, but what does it mean to St. Clair to get this Plex done? And also, what does it mean for our community?
It certainly fits into the region's goals with sports tourism. Our phone's ringing off the hook. Large tournaments booked for the next 18 months, international tournaments. It's exciting. And for our school, in terms of recruitment, athletes that used to come through pretty quickly are coming back for second visits, and seeing customized dressing rooms, an NCAA caliber court, those types of things. It's exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously you made a big announcement with AKO football, signing them up, putting that group on a scholarship program. Is that something that you can see becoming a trend for St. Clair, Rob?
I think it will. We're talking with a few other junior sports programs in town, but when we're recruiting athletes, we often get asked from siblings or brothers or friends, what about football? And the college system isn't going to have football in the near future. But now we can say we have an arrangement where you can come to the college and you can play on a storied junior football team.
Yeah, and be part of the college though as
Absolutely.
well.
So
It's a great fit. Congratulations on that. Thanks for coming in. I know you're extremely busy, and we look forward to your comments here tonight. So that's our panel, a pretty good group of guys, and we're going to get right into it. Free agency in sports. The reason why this caught my eye, of course, there's the ongoing LeBron trilogy that continues in the NBA. That's part of the free agency thing. But recently, the Detroit Red Wings attempted to sign a couple of key free agents, and they were actually turned down. When's the last time you heard anyone turning down the Detroit Red Wings? So what is that sign? What is that a sign of, gentlemen? Where is free agency going? Does free agency still work in the professional sports environment? Who wants to start it and take a chunk out of that one?
I think it works in some sports. In basketball, they've made a bit of a mockery out of it. LeBron James, is he going to LA? Is he going back to Cleveland?
Well, there's Carmelo Anthony now, right now, too, who's being shopped around all over the place.
I mean, it's by a team in basketball, and it's a shame because all the smaller markets and places like Detroit and Toronto are really being hurt by this. And I think they really have to get a handle on this, and I think they have to take back control over some of this free agency stuff that's going on.
So, fair to say you're saying, Larry, that the players have all the power now?
In some sports.
Yeah.
I think in football less so, although the Lions, if you think of Domenic Papa, there's an issue there, but in general, they have a much better hand on their free agency.
Mm-hmm. I just think the comfort level of the city that they want to live in and raise their children in and is changing. So they want, let's face it, Detroit's in trouble. Mm-hmm. And I think that has a part of why people don't want to come to Detroit. Mm-hmm. I really think that's a major reason. So.
No, with that said, and that's a fair comment, Rick, and that's what came to mind to me. Is it the city or is it the Detroit Red Wing organization? I think you're referring to the two players that rejected the Red Wings. But then you look at Golden Tate, you go to the NFL and the Lions, he signs with them. And you look at baseball, the Tigers have been able to sign a couple of key free agents in the offseason. I mean, you look at the pitchers they signed this past year, things like that, it kind of says, okay, well, what is it? What is it all about?
I really think that it is the city itself.
Okay.
Myself, it's in a rebuilding program, and high-class athletes don't want to come into a rebuilding program.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair to say that. What do you think, Ron?
Dom, I think in free agency there's winners and there's losers, and this year, if you're a Red Wing fan, I guess we're losers.
I don't know if I put it that way, but
I think it's still an attractive market. There's no better family than the Illich family. The rink's old. The city branding is a challenge. I agree with that. But I think the biggest factor driving this is parity. When there used to be 5 or 6 key markets that paid out the big dollars, there's a lot of teams one player away from making a run at it. And look at Tampa Bay, how they did in free agency this year. There's a lot more competition and a lot more options for people.
Mm-hmm. Again, if you want to get involved in our discussion, you can go to our Twitter account. You can Twitter us at SportsDen Live, and I'll again try to get your question on. You mentioned Detroit. We mentioned LeBron James, the power of the athletes. Okay, so if that's the case, and maybe it's only in certain sports. I don't know if it's happened. I mean, you look at the money that Ryan Miller just signed with Vancouver, and Schneider just signed for in hockey. Is this a good thing or a bad thing for sports in general, I guess?
Well, first of all, I think Detroit is becoming a hot market again, so I'm not sure Detroit is the problem. Ownership is really a big factor here. If you've got an owner like Ilitch, who's willing to, what he's done for the Detroit Tigers, he spent millions of dollars on Cabrera. He's bought a great team together. He used to do that for the Red Wings, but right now he's focusing on the Tigers. So I think ownership makes a big difference, and I think in Detroit especially, ownership makes a huge difference. So if Ilitch and the ownership starts concentrating again on the Red Wings, which I think will happen, then all of a sudden we're going to see a championship team here again.
Yeah, but the one player that signed with Washington that was offered a deal with the Red Wings, it was basically the same money. I mean, Boyle ended up going to New York, and it was, again, just for a touch more money. It wasn't a significant amount. And the other player was signed, well, he was overpaid, actually, ended up going to Washington. But really, does it come down to dollars and cents? Are the players still making that an issue?
It almost seems that the social media world's extended into this, and that players are calling players and saying, hey, you want to come with me, and do you want to go here? We see it in junior B hockey, we see it in junior C hockey. It's not, you're not recruiting a player, you're recruiting a player and his friends. And it seems that that's going on in basketball. We'll have a lot more leverage if all four of us are interested in going. It's crazy.
Go ahead, Rick. I know I see some thoughts coming here.
Well, it's true. You see the LeBron, the Bosch, and the Wade, and they team up, and we'll try to do a championship there, or we'll move a couple guys, and they're younger here. Let's move here, and they are playing. They're playing the owners to try to, And if it doesn't work out, we'll have a fire sale.
Well, I think that's what's going to happen in some places. So what's got to happen here then? How do the owners get control back?
Well, I think in football they've done a very good job.
Football is solid. I mean, you don't hear of the collusion going on there amongst the players and that. So.
Basketball is a whole different ball game. I don't know if they'll get the control back for a while. You've got a new commissioner. You've got some major issues. You've got players that control the game now. They've ganged up and created teams themselves, and they can move like they did in Miami. They can move the team right to LA, and all of a sudden you have a new championship. So there's a real problem there. They're going to have to get a hold of it if they want to succeed as a sport. So I think there's good examples and bad examples, and I think football's a great example and basketball's a terrible example.
Okay.
But it's interesting though, Dom, because as Canadians, we usually don't talk basketball in July.
Right.
And we are talking basketball because of LeBron. Mm-hmm. And maybe the business people in the NBA are a lot smarter than we think, and maybe this drives the business. Dysfunctionally so for a fan, but here we are talking, basketball in Canada in July.
Yeah, and it's a good point. But you look at many of the arenas in basketball, unless it's like in the last couple of years, of course, the Miami Heat or the San Antonio Spurs, the Dallas Mavericks, their buildings are filled. You look at the Pistons, you even look at the Toronto Raptors, who did make the playoffs, had a solid campaign. Their building isn't filled.
No, not till the end, yeah.
Yeah, not until come playoff time or towards the end of the season, things like that. So there has to still be a concern. And if you look at even some NHL rinks, and the attendances and, let's face it, the NHL doesn't have a very solid television contract, so that doesn't help their cause there as well. Those two sports certainly would bring up the question of, is a free agency good? And the other thing about free agency, how many times, we've all been around sports, and you hear, well, we're going to build through the draft. Does that even exist anymore? Has the draft become just maybe a sideshow?
I think in baseball, the draft is still very important, possibly in hockey, but a lot of teams do buy their players, and that's become a much greater factor. But actually, if you look at the old days with the Red Wings used to wait for the trade deadline, and they used to get the best players and make the team very competitive. You don't see that happening right now. So, and that had nothing to do with free agency. That had to do with just smart ownership. And I think smart ownership makes a big difference. But I do think that the sport should look to football as an example of how you get free agency under control, and they should look to basketball as something as an example of what you can do and what can happen when the superstars take over the game.
Cliff has written in and he says players should be paid by performance. And I know this is another discussion that's come up many times in just my travels. I've heard that players should get paid based on their performance. Will we see that day?
My question is past performance or future performance?
Well, based on the season, I'm guessing Cliff is saying, you know what, you take the end of the season and based on the numbers, maybe that's how you pay the athlete.
You see most athletes that are going to free agent year have their best years.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Why is that? Are they in better shape? Are they keying in on their next paycheck kind of thing? You may have a point right there.
Can that happen? I don't see it happening with unions and things like that. I don't see, player agents I don't think would ever allow something like that. Or would they?
Well, I guess that gives me hope because then Scherzer's going to have an amazing
Well, I was just going to bring
season.
up Max Scherzer. I mean, he turned down $24 million a year.
Yeah, and now he's going to have the greatest season ever. I think that they're playing for, some players are still playing for winning the championship, the thrill of the game, but too many players have been captivated by money, and that's a big problem in sports.
Before we came on the show, Ron, you had made a comment in our prep room, loyalty, the word loyalty. That does not even exist anymore, I would imagine.
Yeah, I don't know that a young hockey fan can have a hero any longer that stays in town for more than 3, 4, 5 years is a good run. I mean, I followed Yzerman his whole career, and it was a great luxury to have him in Detroit. I guess you might be loyal to an athlete and the team becomes second status. You just have you're a LeBron fan no matter where he plays. But there's certainly no loyalty to the team at the extent free agency is going. You look at the Red Sox last year with a great baseball team and they all jumped ship. It's difficult.
All right. On that note, we got to take a time out here in the den. When we come back, we're going to talk about junior and college university athletics. Should they be getting paid? Should there be some form of compensation? And there's talk of a union developing for junior hockey players in Ontario. We'll discuss that right here on the Sports Den.
Take one empty field, round up a group of players, add 3 bases, plus 1 home plate, throw in a softball, and add an umpire. Play ball! It's not hard to get a game of softball going, and to keep it going from the time you're 4 till you're 84. Softball. Get in the game.
Used to be if your season.
Welcome back. Go ahead, Larry.
No, the Lions. We were just talking about Detroit Lions. They've played with manipulated the pricing.
Yeah,
And, it's just about making more and more money. It's not team loyalty. It's how the team can make more money to pay more and more money to the players, and that's got to go. I mean, that's got to change.
Well, that's where the fans, I think, have got to put their foot down. Fair to say that, guys? Like, we're just finishing up talking about free agency in sports, and during the commercial break discussing it, how ticket prices are going up, and to buy a beer at a game, and how if you go as a single person, it's a lot easier than taking a family of 4 or 5, which Ron brought up. So it is interesting, but ticket prices continue, and that's the thing. It's if you talk to an agent, they're going to say, well, it's whatever the market will bear. Well, is the market still able to bear some of these contracts? I mean, Scherzer's turning down $24 million a year.
And if you win, it seems the market can bear it because the Tigers get great crowds.
They do. They get very good attendance. They're very fortunate, but they have a good team.
And the opposite, if you lose like the Lions, They still get great crowds.
Yeah.
So.
Well, the
that
Maple Leafs
doesn't-
are, the Maple Leafs are the argument, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
that's another argument.
that's
yeah.
another argument.
Is there such thing as fan collusion? All you do is buy the bleacher seats, and you just don't sit in those box seats that are.
There you go, Rick. Maybe that's something we need to start here.
There we go.
Say it originated right here on the sports.
Fan free agency.
Fan free agency, exactly. So, at the break, of course, let me reintroduce our panel first. Larry Horowitz from the Downtown Windsor Business Association is with us. Also, Rick Pryor, the president, Walker Homesites Baseball, and Vice President at St. Clair College, Mr. Ron Segan, joining us on this edition of the Sports Den. At the break, we had mentioned that our next topic that we're going to discuss was a union, possible union being formed at the junior hockey level. Now, this came up a couple of years ago, and it was kind of pushed aside, but now there's talk that Unifor, actually, a group that we're very familiar with, is going to get involved with this. And this could spin off to a lot of things. I mean, you look at what Northwestern University just did in the United States with the NCAA stuff, things like that. It's becoming a much talked about topic. So that's why we're talking about it here. And if a union does come to life at the OHL or junior hockey level, good thing or bad thing?
I think it's a good thing. I think it would be a good thing. I think that needs to be more structure, more procedures in place. Why not start it, and why not have something in place there for the young individuals to move forward, and their parents, and their have some guidance, have something concrete for them, and to move forward.
Okay.
I do think it's a good thing.
All right. What do you think, Larry?
Well, we live in a democratic society, and if the players feel, because of whether it's safety issues or other issues, that they need to form a union, then that's really up to them, and we should be for it, because again, we live in a society that allows people to make those kind of decisions.
Okay. Of course, junior AOHL, the argument might be there that they're already providing a room and board for the player. They're providing equipment, travel, meals. Everything's in place that way. Fair argument there, Ron?
It's an interesting argument. I mean,
And you're very familiar with junior hockey, being associated with the Junior B Vipers, Junior C Canadian.
and that was going to be my comment, Dom, is where does it stop? Because there's, affiliated junior B players with OHL teams, and the majority of junior hockey is still grassroots. It's families that run teams. It's communities. The Essex 73 is one of the best examples around. Are you going to have junior C unionized players and volunteers selling 50-50 tickets? And the disparity in the OHL. The London Knights are pretty big business, but the Peterborough Petes aren't as big a business any longer. So I don't know how that plays out. Something's driving it, and I think the OHL needs to look at the root cause of why there's some discontent.
And you lead me into the next question for the panel here, and whoever wants to jump on this can jump on it. Why do you think it has come to this? Why is there a group out there saying, we need a union, we need some protection for our players?
I think maybe it's the middle of the pack people. It's the middle pack players that need some protection, okay? The high-end players are getting their attention per se and getting, but it's those ones in the middle of the pack that maybe need some protection, maybe need the same equality. And that's what unions bring, is equality across the board.
Okay, but should they be getting that same consideration as a player that maybe is one of those high-end can't-miss prospects, whereas the other kid is getting a chance to play at a high level of hockey and might be able to take advantage of that and get into the next level of hockey?
I think the difference in junior hockey is the age of the player. So maybe that 15-year-old needs a little more care than a 24-year-old professional. We were talking earlier about the different education packages. I could argue, and I'm a big junior hockey fan and love the people who own it and support it, but I think every kid on that team, regardless of their ability, should get the same education package, as an example.
Okay. You're not touching this one, are you, Larry?
Well, I think, I think that I don't know enough about junior hockey to really delve into what their issues are. But I think that if they can work out a plan, that they can work with the ownership and they can work with the families that take care of them, and they come out with the right package and it helps them and it helps the ownership and everybody has to work together, then it could be the way to go. I don't know what the answer is.
Fair to say, gentlemen, the biggest challenge here could be to find a level playing field, because let's face it, you have the Windsor Spitfires who do very well, draw well, have a good following. Then you have a group maybe in Belleville that's having a hard time selling 2,500 tickets. Or, in London, they're getting 9,000 every game, and then in Owen Sound, they've got an arena that only holds 3,000.
Yeah.
How tough is that going to be to find that level playing field?
Extremely tough.
Yeah.
And I also think the unions do it every day.
Sure. I mean, that's what they do.
That's what they do. They try to find the happy medium, right? And something to cover everyone along, that touches everyone. I think that's it doesn't matter where you come from, whether it be Windsor, Barrie, or wherever. It should be the procedures in place to cover all, right? That's my.
And I don't know if they'll ever get to this, but revenue sharing in football has been very effective. Revenue sharing, I think, in the CFL has been effective, where the smaller based teams are helped out by the larger based teams. So maybe it'll come to that, and maybe that's needed. I don't know if that's really the answer, but it could be. And I'm going to let the players make those decisions.
The revenue sharing, I think, would be tough at the OHL level, just for the reason we just talked about. You have a building that holds 3,000 people, and then you have the London, it's called the Budweiser place now, Budweiser, that holds 9,000. Well,
I think they figured it out in football. I think they figured it out how Green Bay does it and how the New York
but in
teams
football,
do it.
are you not going to get stadiums filled? I mean, let's face it, you're going to have every stadium's going to have 60,000 plus there, or 70,000.
And the anomaly in football is the TV revenue across the
Sure,
league is
sure.
ridiculously high.
Okay.
You've heard the sayings, the Lions don't need to sell a single ticket to be profitable. Their TV package makes them profitable. So I think it's easy. It's the grassroots nature of junior hockey that has to be managed in all of this. And I don't know how a union represents someone who technically isn't an employee. That's interesting. But I think there's disparity between the haves and have-nots, and that's usually where unions can play a role. So it'd be interesting.
And it's an interesting point. You mentioned employees. Are these players, should they be considered employees? I got Darryl stumped on that one.
If you're anytime you're protecting someone for a union, they have to be an employee, don't they?
Well, I'm guessing so,
I think
but
they
is
found
that
out.
an argument, I guess, for OHL owners that look at,
It's a very good argument.
are they employees? Are these,
Well, in a way,
you know what, the NCAA says that they are. The NCAA says, they lose their eligibility to gain a scholarship because there's a form of compensation there.
Well, did the Windsor Spitfires make money off these players?
I would have to say yes.
So I guess I'd have to say that they are employees, even though they're given room and board. I mean, if you have an au pair that comes into town and you give her room and board, you still have to give her compensation for her work. So if the Windsor Spitfires, if other teams do make a profit, then you have to take that into consideration.
Okay, but what about those teams that can't make the same profit as the Spitfires, and some teams that may lose money even? Because that's happened to OHL teams where the year was a disaster, they couldn't sell enough tickets, it just wasn't happening. Where do you go with it then?
You're opening a lot of cans
That's
of
why we're
worms.
talking about this.
Yeah. So it's a difficult, they're going to have to come to some kind of agreement, some kind of conclusion in terms of what the families are worth to take care of these students, in terms of their education, in terms of if they should be paid at all. Those are agreements that have to take, discussions that have to take place, and agreements have to be put together that takes into consideration of fairness for everybody.
If this comes to fruition, this union, will that change junior sports on a whole? You look at baseball, Rick, you've got a junior program there, mind you, you're not,
Junior, but this is amateur sports,
Yeah.
And we're speaking,
but the OHL is considered amateur sports as well.
And that's what I'm getting back at, is what Ron said, to ensure that amateur sports get their education, amateur athletes get their education before anything else. That's across the board. I think that, what I've heard is that's what's lacking too. Not everyone gets the same educational value and that needs to be set in stone.
All right, good stuff. It's a tough discussion, that's for sure. Larry, thanks for coming in. Rick, thanks for your thoughts. Ron, always great to see you. Good luck with everything that you guys are involved with, and thank you for working very hard in our community and keep it going forward. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of the Sports Den. Check us out again next week, and also check out we-tv.ca on a daily basis. See what's going on here. We TV, we got you covered. Take care, everybody. We'll talk to you again very soon.